Alright, what is up you guys, and welcome back to the Progressive Skills in English Level 3 coursebook. In this recording we're going to be going over the reading section, improving your memory. Okay, so here we have 1.5, vocab for reading, internal and external factors, and we're going to understand what this means in a second. So let's go to exercise A here. Here we have reviewing words. So complete the text with the correct word beginning with RE. Okay. So all the words that we're going to have to complete the text with start with RE in each case, okay? So let's think of some words that start with RE before starting. So we have research, we have remember, recall, reminded. All of these are words that start with E, okay? So let's try and complete the text one by one. So the other day I noticed a new... What do you guys think? If you don't know the word, you can always go forward a little bit so you guys can get a better idea. So the other day I noticed a new dash assistant in the laboratory. Okay, so a new dash assistant in the laboratory, that probably means research, right? So the word has RE and it means something. So research assistant in the laboratory. Okay, then we have we were at school together. I dash his face, but I couldn't dash his name. Okay, so this one can be pretty simple. What do you guys think? I recognized, so the E is written, so I'll write it like this: recognized, okay, his face, but I couldn't recall his name, not remember his name. Okay, I know this was a little bit confusing, but it's recall his name. So I recognized his face, but I couldn't recall his name. I suddenly dash it a few days later. Okay, so I suddenly remembered, right? He had or she had a sudden remembrance for his name. So how will we write this? We'll write this like so: remembered it a few days later. Okay? It was dash some notes about memory, or I was dash some notes about memory. I was revising, right? Makes sense? I was revising some notes about memory on my computer. I saw the name Miller. Okay, so now that makes much more sense of how he or she knew or suddenly remembered the name. That dash me of my friend's name. That, what do you guys think? That reminded me of my friend's name, Adam Miller. So that's a real life example of how we, what do you guys think? Retain information from the brain or no? Retrieve, right? Get information from them. It's basically a fancy word for get, right? So retrieve information from the brain. Okay? So now let's go to exercise B. Here we have understanding new words in context. So read the summary of a survey. Let's check this together. Look at the answers to the questions with the number of people giving each answer. Complete the summary with the correct noun in each space. Okay, so a little bit of background. This is basically a survey about internal and external factors that affect concentration, right? Because a lot of people actually struggle with concentration. It might not seem like a big deal to the outside, but every person has their own problems and weaknesses, and one of those can be concentration or attention span, right? So in this survey we'll see what prevents you from concentrating, right? Is it that you get bored, or like do you get tired, do you get thirsty, hungry? Is your chair uncomfortable? And or is your study area maybe noisy, too much noise, and you don't like that? Okay, I don't think anybody likes, honestly, like studying in a place where there's constant noise that just doesn't stop. Doesn't seem like a fun time for anybody. Okay, so let's start. I investigated the internal and external factors which affect concentration. There were 10 participants from the university. All of them said that the main problem was, what do you guys think? The main problem was, that's correct, boredom, right? And can I write that down? Yes, I can. Boredom. All of them said that the main problem was boredom. Okay, that's another word for, that's when being, that feeling when you get bored kicks in. Okay, so boredom. Now, other internal factors were also important. So 4 of them talked about, so here 4 of them obviously meaning 4 different people, right? So here we have the number 4, meaning 4 different people talked about this. So we'll say tiredness, right, you guys? So tiredness. 4 of them talked about tiredness. And 3 mentioned, here we have 3 mentioned thirst, and 3 mentioned hunger. So we'll say, we'll say 3 mentioned hunger and thirst, right? So 3 mentioned hunger and thirst. 2 people referred to external factors. 1 complained about, what was it, you guys? 1 complained about discomfort, right? Because of his or her chair. Okay, so 1 complained about discomfort and 1 mentioned, what was it? 1 mentioned noise. 1 mentioned noise or noises. I said both are correct, so noise in her study area. Okay? So I investigated the internal and external factors which affect concentration. There were 10 participants from the university. All of them said that the main problem was boredom. Other internal factors were also important. 4 of them talked about tiredness, and 3 mentioned hunger and thirst. 2 people referred to external factors. 1 complained about discomfort, and 1 mentioned noise in her study area. Okay, so that was exercise B, understanding new words in context. Now let's go to C. Before we do that, let's actually check the vocab box. You guys know the drill. Let's start. Attention span, brain, complain, concentrate, concentration, external, factor, internal, investigate, participant, real life example, refer, research, steeply. Okay, so now let's go to exercise C, understanding new phrases in context. So read the beginning of each sentence and suggest a way each sentence could continue. Okay, so here we're going to be reading the beginning of each sentence, and this will be entirely up to you as a student, right? So whichever way you think is best, finish it with that, right? So mine could be a lot different than yours, so let's see. He doesn't have a very good attention span, so what could I say to, a way for the sentence to keep going? I could say he doesn't have a very good attention span, so his concentration decreases, right? And concentration falls steeply when there's a lot of noise, right? That is true. So concentration falls steeply when boredom kicks in, for example, or when there is a lot of noise. Both are correct. You need to have a complete picture of the situation before you. What do you guys think we could say? You need to have a complete picture of the situation before you put the blame on someone, right? That could also be true. And sometimes it is difficult to concentrate on a certain subject. That is also one way the sentence could continue. Okay, so obviously these will be entirely up to you. Now let's go to the next page. Alright, you guys, so now moving on to the next page. Here we have exercise A, activating ideas. Discuss these questions. This is just a simple kind of sort of a speaking exercise to start this reading section. So we have, What was the last academic test you did? So answer truthfully. What was the subject? What was that last academic test that you did, right? And 2, did you get the grade you wanted? Why or why not? And also add how. Like, how did you get it? What did you have to do to get that grade? So if you got the grade that you wanted, or how and why, right? You always gotta have those 2 answers in the back of your head. And if you didn't get the grades or the grade that you wanted, why not? Like, what happened? What went wrong? Okay? So activate your ideas, start thinking a little bit, and then we'll move to exercise B. So here we have predicting content. So let me open this so you guys can get a better view. Here we have, look at the title of the text below. What is your answer to the question? Okay, so here we have some true and false statements, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna read all of this, right? So we kind of treat it like a comprehension, okay? So I'm gonna read all of this. I hope you guys can read it too. So I want you to pause the video and actually read it for yourself and try to understand what the text is saying, and then we'll go back to these statements and answer true or false with I want you guys to check for basically the why of the statement. So for example, if this is false, why, and if it's true, why as well, okay? Because exercise D tells us that we gotta mention the why, so we'll just do them both right here, okay? So let's go. Can you remember things forever? Do you remember everything that you learn at school? Everybody knows that the human brain cannot remember everything. We do not have a complete picture of human memory. Forgetting is a natural process. In Figure 1, the red line on the graph shows that within 24 hours of learning, you have forgotten nearly 80% of the new information. In education, we need to consider how to stop this loss of information. Research shows that revision is the key. You must take the information out of your memory, use it and store it again, several times. Then it will become fixed, and it'll stay in your memory for years. Mace's theory was later used to design a new system of flashcards for learning languages, later 2003. In everyday life, we repeat the cycle of retrieval, use, storage without thinking. You have retrieved that information hundreds of times, so you have not forgotten it. In the field of academic study, the repetition comes from recall. In other words, the student needs to recall something. So he or she finds the information in their memory, brings it out and reviews it. Then he or she stores it again. Each retrieval should happen at a longer interval, or a gap in time, according to the idea of spaced repetition, Mace, 1932. The first review is very important and should be after only 10 minutes, as the blue line on the graph shows. This review actually increases memory to 100%. However, if you do not look at the information again, you still forget nearly everything. Review the information again after, say, 1 day, 1 month, and then 6 months. See the green line on the graph. You will then remember the information forever. Since the 1960s, new research has indicated that information is connected in our memory. The connections have 2 important features. Firstly, we can retrieve groups of connected ideas more easily than single ideas. Secondly, if you retrieve and store information often, the connections become stronger. So it is better to spend a short time on retrieval every few weeks rather than a long time on retrieval every few months. Okay, so that was the text. I hope you got an understanding of how things are stored in your brain and how you can remember them. Now let's go to these statements. So we have 1, or A. Modern scientists understand how human memory works. What do you guys think? True or false? I will say false. And why is that? That's because here we actually have it. Everybody knows that the human brain cannot remember everything. However, science has not discovered the exact reason for this. We do not have a complete picture of the human memory. Okay? So that is the reason. I have nowhere to write it, so okay? You guys are going to have to write this down. So B, reviewing information helps you remember it. What do you guys think? I'll say true. And why is that? Let me go down here so you guys can check. Right? In education, we need to consider how to stop this loss of information. And research shows that revision is the key. Okay? So C, we review information about our lives without thinking. What do you guys think? That's correct. Also true. And why? Because in everyday life, we repeat the cycle of retrieval, use, storage without thinking. So take, for example, riding a bicycle when you were younger, or maybe walking home from school. You do it so much to the point that it's basically stuck in your head. Okay? So now we have D. A student needs to review the same information every day. What do you guys think? I say false. Why? Because each retrieval should happen at a longer interval or gap in time. And that's according to the idea of spaced repetition. Alright? Then we have E. Without review, you'll forget about 90% of the information in a month. What do you guys think? I say true. And why is that? Because after a month, only about 10% remains. That's why the 90% of the information is lost or forgotten. Then we have F. It is not possible to remember 100% of information for 6 months. And for that, I'm going to strongly say false. Just because I just read that according to the green line on the graph, here you have it, by the way, that's that green line. Okay? 100% of the information can be remembered for 6 months. Then hence why I said this was false. And then we have G. You should pay attention to connections between ideas when you study, and this one's true. Why? Because we can retrieve groups of connected ideas more easily than single ideas. Okay? Now let's go to the vocab box. You guys know what to do. So we have loss, remain, repeat, retrieval, and review. Okay? So that was exercise B. Now let's move on. Here we have exercise C, understanding the paragraph structure. So here we have, we're gonna have to read the text again. All right? So read the text below and look at figure 1. Fill in the gaps in the text with these sentences. Okay, so we have some extra information. So these 8 sentences are extra information, and we're gonna have to find a way to put them in these spaces right here. So for example, this space, we'll write the number down and we'll read it. Okay? So let's start. Do you remember everything that you learned at school? Everybody knows that the human brain cannot remember everything. And what do you guys think could go after that, right? Basically in the similar topic. We'll probably say 4. However, science has not discovered the exact reason for this. And then I'll keep going and say we do not have a complete picture of human memory. Okay? So number 1 will be 4. Alright? Now let's go to 2. Forgetting is a natural process. In figure 1, the red line on the graph shows that within 24 hours of learning, you have forgotten nearly 80% of the new information. And what can I say after that? I can probably say after a month, only about 10% remains, right, you guys? So number 2 will be 2. And after that, we'll say in education, we need to consider how to stop this loss of information. Okay? Then we have research shows that revision is the key. You must take the information out of your memory, use it and store it again several times. Then it will become fixed and it'll stay in your memory for years. What can I say after that? What do you guys think? I can probably say the need to repeat this process many times was first described in the 1930s by Cecil Mace, or Cecil Mace. Okay? So that will be 1. Mace's theory was later used to design a new system of flashcards for learning languages. Okay? In everyday life, we repeat the cycle of retrieval, use, storage without thinking. What can I say after that, you guys? I'll probably say the example. So take, for example, how to ride a bicycle, a very happy event in your life. So, for example, I don't know, a birthday, for example, or something like that, or the way to your home. So what was that? Number 5. So we'll say 5. You have retrieved that information hundreds of times that you have not forgotten it. In the field of academic study, the repetition comes from recall. In other words, the student needs to recall something so he or she finds the information in their memory, brings it out and reviews it, then she stores it again. And what can we say after that to end it all out? What do you guys think? Yes, that's correct. We call this revision. Excuse me. So we call this revision. Okay? 8. Then we have dash each. We're going to have to read after that so we get a good idea of what we're going to use. So each retrieval should happen at a longer interval or gap in time. According to the idea of spaced repetition, Mace 1932, what can we say before that, you guys? We can probably say you must continue to retrieve information if you want to remember it forever. And then we'll go on saying each retrieval should happen at a longer interval or gap in time. Okay? So then we have the first review is very important. It should be after only 10 minutes. As the blue line on the graph shows, this review actually increases memory to 100%. However, if you do not look at the information again, you still forget nearly everything. Okay? And for that, what can we say after you forget nearly everything? We'll probably say, note that the same line is at a level of only 20% after 6 months. Right? That makes sense. So 3. And then we'll keep going by saying review the information again after, say, 1 day, 1 month, and then 6 months. You can see the green line on the graph. You will then remember the information forever. Okay? And then we have, since the 1960s, new research has indicated that information is connected in our memory. The connections have 2 important features. Firstly, we can retrieve groups of connected ideas more easily than single ideas. So what can we say? We have the last one. What do you guys think it is? That's correct. We can say, so make connections with other pieces of knowledge when you review information. So that will be number 6. Okay? And secondly, if you retrieve and store information often, the connections become stronger, so it is better to spend a short time on retrieval every few weeks rather than a long time on retrieval every few months. Okay? So that was exercise C, pretty hefty one. Okay? So that was understanding the paragraph structure. So what do we have after that? We have understanding the text. Explain why each statement in exercise B is true or false using information from the text. Obviously, we did this, like I told you guys, and that is why I said the why and explained these statements in exercise B. So now let's move to the next page. Alright, you guys, now moving on. Here we have exercise A, reviewing vocab, and this is again a very simple exercise. These are all words from the text on the previous page, so let's try and complete them. Okay, so we have 1, sev, this one's simple, several, right? The word several. And then we have 2, interval, okay? Then we have 3, retrieval, right? Remember? And then 4, ironically, the word remember here, like I just said it. And 5, I could say forgetting or forgotten, both are correct. Then we have 6, repetition or repeat. I'll just write repeat. And then we have 7, loss, and 8, fixed. 9, I think I could say store or storage for 9, so I'll write down storage. And finally, we have 10. I could say revise or reviews, both are correct. I'll just write revise, okay? So several, interval, retrieval, remember, forgetting, repeat, loss, fixed, storage, and revise, okay? Now, let's go to exercise B. Read skills check 1. Okay, so we're going to have to open this so you guys can read the skills check. Here we have recognizing sentence function. So when you read a sentence, you must decide its function, the verb tense or form, and that helps you to decide if it's a general fact, right? So present simple, for example, forgetting is a natural process. Is it a general fact? Is it a past fact? So for example, the use of past simple. So Mac or Mace's theory was used, right? Or is it a prediction maybe? So will, may, might. So all of these words indicate to a prediction, so you will remember the information forever. And finally, is it advice? Like must and imperative. So you must take the information out of your memory. Review the information again after 1 month. Okay? So let's go to exercise B here. Mark each sentence below either GF, so general facts, PF, past facts, prediction, or advice. So is it a general fact, past fact, prediction, or advice? We'll find out right now. So the solution will become clear. What do you guys think? That's correct. That's a prediction, right? The solution will become clear. Here we have will. Okay? Then we have B. You should do exercise once a week. This one's really obvious. It's advice. You should do exercise once a week. The first king of a united England was Athelstan. Okay, so C, this is probably a past fact, right? The first king, that means that was a long time ago, so we'll write down PF. And then D, this is a new area of research. And that's just a GF, general fact. This is a new area of research. And we have E, always carry a book in your bag. That, again, I'm giving someone advice. So always carry a book in your bag, advice. And we have F, the company will expect you to meet customers. What do you guys think this is? That is a prediction, right? So the company expects you, again, prediction. Then we have G, you must do all your tasks on time. And for that, that's again advice. So you must do all your tasks on time. Then we have H, you will probably lose contact with friends from early childhood. This one looks like a prediction, right? Because you will probably lose contact with friends from early childhood. And then we have I, average temperature falls as you move away from the equator. Obviously, the equator line, so I think that's just a general fact, so GF, right? And finally, we have the research was conducted by Atkinson and Schifrin. So, probably, what was it? A past fact, yeah, because it was conducted a while back, so PF. Okay, so we mark the sentences, general facts, past facts, predictions, and advice. And that's how you recognize the sentence function. Check the verb tense or form, and that should help you decide. Okay, now let's move on. Here we have a vocab box. You guys know what to do. Area, conduct, feature, initial, lose contact with, prediction, process. Okay? Now let's go to exercise C. Read skills check 2. Let me open this first. Here we have reading line graphs. Okay, so graphs are pretty important, you guys. You gotta understand how to read graphs for English and for other subjects as well. Learning graphs can help you a lot in English, business, and other subjects like mathematics, for example. So, many academic texts include line graphs, right? So, there are obviously different types of graphs. We have flowcharts, graphs, different styles for graphs, and such. The writer usually refers the reader to each graph, like we just saw in the previous text. So, examples: this process continues, see Figure 3. The writer here is referring us as readers to the graph. Or the writer could also say, the results are shown in the graph below, and you'll find a graph below. The writer often describes features of the graph. So for example, as the blue line shows, and you'll obviously find a blue line. Or note the level after 5 seconds, and and that is why it comes in real clutch and handy to know how to read the graph, so you don't spend too much time just messing around trying to understand how to read it. Okay, so here we have match the sentences below with the graphs. Okay, so here we have 4 graphs, right? Figure 1, and they're obviously different figures, but these are all graphs. Okay, so here we have A. As the yellow line shows, the temperature rises quickly. What do you guys think? As the yellow line, so here we have only one graph that has a yellow line, and the temperature rises, so goes upwards quickly. So A will be graph 4. So I'll just say 4. Okay? And then we have B. Figure 1 shows the initial results. So figure 1, here we have figure 1. Initial means first, so first results, so B will be 1. And then we have C. Obviously, see the red line in figure 6. So figure 6 and red line, here we have it, so 2. Okay? And it's really not that hard, you guys. Just focus a little bit and you'll find that it's really easy to solve. Then we have D. Note the change in speed at 30 meters. Change in speed at around 30 meters. Here we have speed, okay, and distance. So obviously I'm talking about graph 3. Note the pressure at 12 seconds and between 2 brackets black line. And that black line helps us to identify. So where is the black line? Black line is in graph 1. Here, you can see it. So black line 1. And finally, we have the blue and orange lines in the graph are very similar. And obviously, blue and orange, so that means graph number 2. Okay? And here, very similar, so very close to each other in terms of information. Alright? So that was how you read and find graphs. Now, let's move on. Here we have, I'm going to skip exercise D because exercise E is the exact same, so we'll just skip that. We have skills check 3, understanding SVO structure, and what the hell does that mean? Let me elaborate a little bit. Where is it? So, okay, skills check 3. So, English uses a basic subject, verb, and object / complement structure, hence the name SVO. In academic sentences, there's often extra information about the subject and the object or complement, or and complement, okay? So examples, you guys remembered when we said revision is the key. There are extra information, it's just hidden. So here revision of the lecture notes, obviously, is the key, obviously, to successful learning, right? So hidden information that you don't usually read. Then we have the red line shows the loss. The red line, where's the red line? It's on the graph, shows the loss of information. Okay? So now find the subject, verb, object, and or complement of a long sentence, and then find the extra information. That's what we're going to do here. So let me open exercise E. So now let's find the subject, verb, object in these sentences. So number 1, you have retrieved that information hundreds of times. What do you guys think the subject is? That's correct. the subject is you. Okay? And what is the verb? That's right. Have retrieved. And that is not how you write retrieved. Okay? So have retrieved. And then the object, what do you guys think? That's right. That information. That information. So you, subject, have retrieved, verb, that information, object. Okay, number 2. You need a degree in architecture. So again, you is the subject, need, verb, and a degree is the object. Then we have number 3. Healthy people often eat low-fat snacks during the day. For that, for the subject, we'll say people, right? What else? For verb, we'll say eat, obviously. And for object, we'll say snacks, right? And nope, forgot the K, snacks. Now we have China has an 18,000 kilometer long coastline on the Yellow Sea and the China Sea. So again, subject, China, okay? Verb, has. Again, this one's really simple, you guys. And object can be coastline or a coastline. So we'll just write down coastline, okay? Number 5. The internet is changing the relationship between businesses and customers. Subject will be the internet, okay? And for verb, we have is changing. That's, nope. So let me go back here. Is changing, that's the verb. And finally, for the object, we'll say the relationship, okay? And then we have 6. The Black Death of 1348 killed thousands of people. So the Black Death is the subject. So the Black Death. And again, I somehow seem to mess up the spellings. So the Black Death killed, right? And killed is obviously the verb. And finally, object will be people. And we have number 7. A successful magazine attracts a demographic group. What do you guys think? Subject will be, that's right, a magazine. Okay, so a magazine. And for a verb, we'll say attracts, right? And what about the object, you guys? That's correct, a group, right? And then we have 8. New students will probably have an introductory talk. What do you guys think? That's right. So subject, students, verb will have, and object, a talk. Okay, so that was exercise E. Now let's move to exercise F. Here we have identifying extra information, like we talked a little bit about in the skills check here. So circle the subject and object in the following sentences, and I don't think we can use arrows. So we're just going to circle the subject and object in the following sentences. This one should be real simple. You guys know how to find the subject and the object. So obviously, number 1, American scientists at Cap Canaveral in the USA launched the first space shuttle. So scientists and I'd say space shuttle. Okay. 2, the human body needs more than 40 different nutrients. Human body, okay, and nutrients. Okay, so subject and object. Then we have the Himalayas, a mountain range in Asia, contains the highest peaks on Earth. We'll say the Himalayas, right? Can I not circle both? The Himalayas, yeah. Mountain range in Asia contains the highest peaks, yep, peaks on Earth. Archaeologists have discovered an early form of drafts. So we'll say archaeologists, obviously. Subject and an early form of drafts. Young men of what can we see? Young men from 10 of the teams take part in each race, which lasts only 90 seconds. So we'll say men, okay, and race, right? So young men from 10 of the teams take part in each race, which lasts only 90 seconds. Then we have 6. College and university media studies courses look at communication in the mass media. We can say courses, right? That's the subject. Courses look at communication. That's the object. So communication in the mass media. 7. Some modern teen magazines reflect the reader's self-image. Magazines, all right, so teen magazines, okay, reflect the reader's, we'll say self-image, okay? Then we have, finally, 8. Websites for students do not always have complete or correct information. We'll say websites, right, and information. So that was exercise F, and we circled the subjects and the objects in the different sentences. Okay? What else do we have? Yeah, I think that's about it. So now let's move to the next page. Alright, you guys, so now moving on to the final two pages of our reading section. Here we have studying for a test. Okay, so again, we start with reviewing vocabulary, but now we get to choose between the correct or two forms of a certain word. So here we have 1. We need to understand more about the store or storage of information in the brain. This one's a no-brainer. The irony. So storage will be the correct one. Then we have 2. You often remember very little if you are tired or tiredness. What do you guys think? That's correct. We're going to say tired. Your brain is not efficient or efficiency at those times, and for that we'll say efficient. Okay? Then we have 3. You must repetition or repeat your review of information at regular intervals. So you must repeat your review of information at regular intervals. 4. Forgetting or forget information is natural, but it can be avoided. For that we'll say forgetting information is natural, but it can be avoided. 5. The key to effective learning is revise or revision at spaced intervals. We'll say revision. And finally, we have 6. A lot of factors can affect your concentration negatively, and for that we'll say affect with an A, right? Affect and effect, you guys should know the difference. Okay, so 6. A lot of factors can affect your concentration negatively, means in a bad way. Okay, that was simple reviewing vocab. Now let's move on. Here we have exercise B, activating ideas. These are again some things that I'll just remind you guys of. So you're going to read a text about revising for exams. What should you guys do before you read text? Before you read the text, what do you guys think? So for me, I'd say before you read the text, I want you to look at illustrations, look at the title. Let me actually so you guys can get a better look here. So look at illustrations, look at titles or a title, look at the introduction / the first paragraph. That's also really important. You could also highlight the topic sentences of the other paragraphs if you feel the need to. And you should also, this is a good one, you should try to predict the content from the illustrations. So the pictures, the graphs, okay? Just predict. You don't need to exactly get it right, but try your best to predict, okay? And you could also try to predict content from the title and heading. Yeah, basically prediction can really help you out when reading, okay? So what else do we got? When you meet new vocab, okay, so new words that you'll come across, and this will happen to you a lot. So when you're reading, you're gonna find out that there are a lot of words that you might not know. So what do you do? So I'd say try to understand the sentence without the word. So if you see a word that you don't know what it means, continue the sentence until it ends. You might get a better idea of what the word means, right? Basically work out the part of speech and mark the word, find out if it's a noun, verb, adjective, right, or an adverb. And then finally, obviously, look up the word in a dictionary. Or Google, this one's a no-brainer. And yeah, that's why I always say check your pronunciation in the vocab box and check your spelling, and you can always go and research it later. Okay? And finally, what do you do after you have read the text? And I'd say, although not a lot of people do this, but it'll really help you, retain all of the information that you read. And I'd say write a summary in basically 1 or 2 sentences. You could also draw an illustration of the information, but I'm not a big fan of that. So if you're into drawing, go ahead, man. it's okay. And you could also say, you could highlight important points in the text, right? Make notes, add new words to your vocab list if you make a vocab list. And think about, yeah, this one's a good one. You can think about your personal reaction to the information, right? So what would you do in a certain like I said, in a certain scenario in the text, right? Do you condone torturing in certain subjects? I'm not trying to get off topic. I'm just saying if you add yourself in the mix, it makes it a lot better for you to retain the information, okay? So that's just something to look out for. Now let's go to exercise C. Read the text opposite. What is the difference between understanding and memory? Okay, so we're going to have to read the text now. So again, take a quick look at the illustrations and let's start. So, what's the best way to revise? For successful revision, we need to understand how our brains work during a period of study. One of the key questions is, in a test, which items do we remember better? Is it the things that we studied at the beginning of the revision period, or the things that we studied at the end? Imagine you have to revise for a test. You decided to work from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. You probably do not notice any difference in your level of understanding during the revision period. However, in the text, you will often remember better the things that you revised at 9:30 or 10 than the things you revised at 1 or 1:30. The point is simple but very important. There is a difference between understanding and memory. Your level of understanding probably does not change much over the 5 hours. However, the percentage of information that you will remember falls steeply. Note the level of the red line in figure 2 after 5 hours. During a very long session, internal factors start to affect your memory. We all recognize the signs. You get bored, you start to feel hungry or uncomfortable, your mind feels tired, and your attention decreases. The solution is simple. During a revision period, a student must take short, regular breaks. In the example of the 5-hour revision period above, you should take a 10-minute break every hour. You should also vary the activity that you do during the breaks. Walk around, make a phone call, have a snack, or go outside. Then you will have 5 short revision sessions instead of 1 long one. As the green line shows, you will remember about 75% of the information from the beginning of each session. But over the 5 hours, that percentage stays the same. This is the important point. In each new session, the green line goes up again, because the tiredness, discomfort, hunger, or boredom have gone. There are also personal factors that define good revision. The first factor is related to memory, which is more efficient at certain times of the day. The second is related to the student's learning style. Sometimes people remember more if they write notes. For other people, saying or hearing a recording of the information is more useful. Scientific opinion seems to be clear. Work regularly, take breaks, and try to use revision exercises that suit your learning style. Overall, your memory will be more accurate, and you will get a better grade in the test. Okay, you guys, so that was a really interesting text. Now, let's go to, exercise C. So here we have, So what do you guys think is the difference between understanding and memory from your personal view? For me personally, I think memory is when you have something stuck in your brain, basically. So you know what it is, but you don't understand it, if that makes sense. And that's when understanding comes in. Understanding makes having things stuck to your head easier, right? So to understand something means you know how it works. You understand it. But having it memory means you just have it in your head. You don't think of it this way. You have a math equation, right? So it's in your head, but you don't know what that equation does. You just know that, hey, if we're talking about this, then we use this equation. But why do we use this certain equation? That why, that's understanding. So if you don't have the why, then we're talking memory. If you know the why, then my friend, you have the understanding. Okay? So what are the personal factors involved in good revision? And this will entirely be up to you as a student. And for me personally, I'd say the personal factors involved in good revision are probably better grades. This one's a no-brainer. Generally being happier, because a lot of people think that, hey, it's that exam week or the next 2 weeks are exams, I'm going to be miserable the whole time. No, you're not. It's just that because if you study for a very long session, I'm talking 7+ hours with non-stop, or taking 1 or 2 breaks only, of course you're going to feel miserable. That's why it's set to take a break every hour. It's called being even more efficient, right? And there are obviously a lot more. So this will be entirely up to you as a student. And find the word in the text that means goes down. And what do you guys think? I'd say, does decreases count? Yeah, I think decreases count. Yeah, we have decreases. Yeah. So goes down, decreases, indicates. I think I read something along the lines of research indicates or research shows. So we'll use the word shows. Okay, so indicates shows. Then we have exact. The word exact is just accurate. Okay, so exact, accurate. So underline the thesis statement in the text. I think it was, where was it? It was something like, we need to understand how our brains work during a period of study. Okay, so we'll say we need to understand how our brains work during a period of study. You'll just have to highlight that down. What else do we have? We have, all right, this one's good. So D, understanding a graph. So look at figure 2 opposite and answer these questions. And that's what I was talking to you guys about. So where does the graph come from? So let's take a look at the graph. Here we have the graph, figure 2, source, and we have, what do we have? Percentage of revision remembered, numbers, and time since start of revision. So let's take a look again. Where does the graph come from? And for that, I'll say, here we have the source. So I'll say the graph is from the Education Research Council data. Okay? And what do we have? What is shown by the red line and the green line? So let's take a look at the different lines. And we have no breaks, red line, and regular breaks, green line. So I'll say red line equals no breaks and green line equals regular breaks. All right? And then we have, what does the 8th green square tell us? And the 6th red triangle. Let's take a look. The 8th, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The 8th green square tells us that with regular breaks after 3.5 hours, okay, so 3.5 hours around here, we will remember about 70% of the information we have studied. However, on the 6th triangle, red triangle, it tells us that no breaks after 2.5 hours, we will remember 55% of the information. So I don't know about you, but that's a loss, right? What else do we have? We have what else? Oh, how is this graph similar to the one in lesson 1.6? Okay, so I think I don't really remember it that much, but you guys can always go back. So I think the graph is similar to figure 1 in lesson 1.6, and that both graphs, they show a percentage. So let me take a look. Yeah, they do. So they show a percentage, right, of information remembered against time. So it's basically a battle between the information remembered against time and a way of remembering more information. That's basically the point of the two graphs. And that if we forget, or we forget quickly if we do not take special steps to remember the information that we study. Okay, but again, you could always go back and compare the two, not face to face. You can look at them both at the same time and try comparing. Okay, so now let's go to the vocab box. Here we have affect, break, effect, efficient, note, related or related to, revise, revision, session, storage, understanding. Okay? Excuse me. So that was the vocab box. And then we have E, critical thinking. After reading the two texts in this section, how can you change your own revision routine? And this will, again, be entirely up to you as a student. So after reading the two texts in this section, I definitely change my routine to take a lot more breaks, because I think that the fact, I kind of already do that. It's just that sometimes my breaks can be a little too long, and that's something that I'm working on improving. So I'm a kind of go all in or nothing kind of guy. So either I'll study for like, I don't know, 5 hours straight, or I'll study for 2 hours, then take a break for like 1 hour, and then back again. So yeah, I'm working on kind of having shorter, more frequent breaks, right? So that's how I would change my revision routine. Tell me what's yours in the comments below. Now we have two. Both texts in this section give sources for their information. Why is this important? And I think it's actually because in Western academic texts, it is an actual requirement that writers always credit ideas and opinions to their authors. And at the same time, where opinions are the author's own, right? So he or she, obviously the author, must state this clearly, and that is why you'll see this, people giving the authors giving sources for their information. Okay, so that was the reading section, you guys. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.